All right, so if the crackle's fixed and I'm coming in okay, then I will reveal to you that which you have already guessed. And that being who we're doing today first.
Rejoice, everyone. We're back with another Seki Reacts to Fate.
We may not respond to any chat messages frequently while we're going through this because I'm not going to interrupt the middle of a history section to...
We'll come back and look through chat later, but your message won't be on screen for the duration of the recording.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty traditional recording. I still have coffee in my nose.
Good, that'll keep you fueled.
I don't know if I like it. Anyway, so, Yang Guifei, also known as one of the four great beauties of ancient China.
I think she was actually mentioned in El Malloy alongside,
Because I mentioned all of the four great beauties when I was talking about...
because it was mentioned in, like, that one book.
Yep.
They brought up all four of them.
Yep. So, yeah, no, she was. Also, it's an interesting period for us to do a servant for Fate in China, because thus far we haven't done a whole lot of servants from this specific era. So it's new to us, not new to me historically, but new to us in the channel. So Guifei is actually a title. Her name is Yang Yu Huan, and Guifei is a title given to imperial consorts. She originally had the name Yang Huifei when she was married to the emperor's son, and then obviously we'll get into it, but he makes her into a nun so that he can then marry her and elevate her to Yang Guifei. So that's fun. A little bit of Henry VIII-esque fuckery going on there. But I do want to talk a little bit about...
We've done one contemporary servant to this channel, literally just prior to Yang Guifei. Wu Zetian.
Oh, yeah, Wu Zetian. I always forget about Wu Zetian.
It's funny, like, Yang Guifei is basically, I believe she comes right after Wu Zetian, and some of the political stuff from Wu Zetian carries over to Yang Guifei.
Yeah. Well, it's something I sometimes forget that, I sometimes forget the imperial connections between certain emperors, because I'm like, yes, they're from the same place, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a ton connecting them. So yeah, you've got me all out of order now, because I was going to talk about Emperor Xuanzong in a little bit. and the An Lushan rebellion, because that's all important here. I'm going to try to do a little bit of situating all of our servants today in Chinese history and the larger context of what was happening politically, just because it's an interesting period in Chinese. All of today's servants are in an interesting period in Chinese history, although the periods are all different. And I did have to double check that because I saw some names I recognized and I was like, let me just follow that family line back like 200 years or forward 200 years and see if I'm correct. So as far as we know, based on the textual sources available to us, Yang was born around the year 719 during the reign of Emperor Xuanzong. She was the granddaughter, or great-great-granddaughter, of a court official during the Sui dynasty, and right around the fall of that time, her grandfather was killed by Tang forces. And remember, we have Sui, Tang, and Song in terms of the dynastic lineage. So her father was a census official during his time and apparently had no sons, but he did have 4 daughters, which I'm sure he was not super happy about. And as a result, because her mother died and her father died, she was raised by her uncle Yang Zhuanzhao, who was an official in the Hainan province in modern-day Luoyang. So when she was 14, she was married to Li Mao, who was the Prince of Shou, son of Emperor Xuanzong and his consort Wu. When she entered into this marriage, she carried the name Princess of Shou, and this is when I believe she got the title Huifei, so she was Yang Huifei. In 737, Consort Wu died, and Xuanzong was very sad because he was going through the death of his then favorite concubine and all sorts of stuff like that. And at some point, Xuanzong saw Yang and was enamored with her. He thought that she was really interesting, and so he started planning and plotting a la Henry VIII. I'm going to make that comparison. He wanted her as his consort rather than his son's. So he arranged for her to be made a Taoist nun under the name Taizhen, so that he wouldn't get criticism for marrying his son's wife immediately. So she stays in the palace itself as a Taoist nun named Taishen. And then he gives a new wife to his son, the daughter of the general Wei Zhaoshun, is given to his son as a new wife. And after his son remarries, he then brings Taizhen into his court and makes her the imperial consort with the rank of Guifei. At this point, he also gave posthumous honor to her family and named her mother a lady of Liang, and gave higher offices to her uncle and cousins. Starting in around 745, she was essentially treated as the empress, and all had to bow to her as the most powerful woman in the land. Everyone called her lady, using the honorific that was typically used for Chinese empresses, or Nyangji. And all of her older sisters were given the rank ladies of Han, Guo, and Qin, so that whenever noble women were summoned to the imperial gatherings, even Emperor Xuanzong's sister couldn't take a seat more honorable than her sisters, which is really interesting because she marries in. Theoretically, Xuanzong's sister would be of higher importance than her sisters, but no, not in this case. Xuanzong also gave his favorite daughter, Princess Taihua, who was born to his former wife, consort of Yu, to Yang Qi, her cousin, in marriage. So the households created here, Yang Qian, Yang Qi, and Han, Guo, and Qin, the ladies, were all really rich and given a ton of honors, and essentially became the people that officials would seek to bribe and flatter for the next portion of the king's reign. So essentially, Emperor Xuanzong gave her and her family so much favor that they became the real power during his reign. Like, he was no longer the most powerful and catered to person, essentially. If you wanted favors, or if you wanted a higher position or money or anything like that, you went to her cousin, her older sisters, her uncle, and you talked to one of them, and they could get you places. Which is a dangerous precedent to set as an emperor. Obviously, this was not a choice made with the brain up here, because you would not make that choice if you were using the brain up here. We've seen this go wrong several times throughout history by doing this. So Yang also introduced her second cousin, Yang Zhuo, to Emperor Xuanzong, and he quickly rose through the ranks by flattering the emperor and becoming very favored in his forces. Consort Yang was at this point so popular with the emperor that when she rode a horse, she had a special eunuch to attend her, and there were hundreds of people who were literally conscripted to sew special fabrics that only she could use. She would be given tributes by officials and generals, and at one point in 746, she actually angered the emperor by being jealous and rude, and he had her sent to her cousin's mansion. But literally later in that day, the story goes that he was in such bad a mood, he wouldn't eat, and he would abuse his servants. And then the eunuch, Gao, the one who was assigned to her, knew that he missed Consort Yang so much that he requested the treasures in her palace be sent to her, as well as imperial meals, and that literally later that night, Gao requested that he welcome her back into the palace, which he immediately agreed to. So they had a fight, and he literally could not stay mad for longer than 12 hours. Which is kind of, I mean, man, you really had him around your pinky like wrapped tight. That's cutting off circulation at this point. In 747, the governor An Lushan came to the capital of Chang'an to meet with Emperor Xuanzang. He was highly favored by Xuanzang, and he was asked to honor Consort Yang as his mother, and Yang's cousins would be his sisters and brothers. A few years later, she would offend the emperor again, probably because of jealousy and issues, and he sent her back to her clan. But one of his own officials told him that he overreacted, and he regretted his actions, sent her imperial meals, and she cut off a little bit of her hair, and then she was escorted back to the palace with an even greater love in his heart for her.
You could tell they really loved each other.
She when she was eating the imperial meals brought to her by the eunuch, she literally cried that she felt that her offense deserved death, and that it's that it's fortunate that he did not kill her, but instead returned her to his household, because,
like, if this ain't the best you can hope for in a marriage.
I mean, I don't know. This seems a little one-sided. I'm gonna be real. Yang Guifei is getting everything here, and the Emperor's really not getting a whole lot. If he's the one having to apologize and beg after her, and it's a little one-sided. Good for her, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. You go, but I would not be happy if I were the Emperor and I were in this situation. I would not want to be beholden to a woman, or to. Not to a woman, but to my partner who does not share the same power as me, theoretically, because at this point she kind of does. I mean, she says something and it's going to happen. An Lushan visited Chang'an several more times. He was rewarded with treasures, clothing, and food. We're going to actually talk about An Lushan in a second, because that's important to kind of the greater story of the Tang. See. At one point, there's a funny story where An was summoned to the palace, and to make Emperor Xuanzang laugh, Consort Yang wrapped him in a giant children's swaddling cloth and presented him to the emperor, saying that this was her baby. And the emperor was really amused by that. So An was actually granted even greater favor because of participating in this. So he was allowed to come into the palace as he wanted. And there were even rumors that he and Yang had an affair, but the emperor didn't care. At the time, one of Consort Yang's cousins, Guozhong, had served as commander of a circuit located in modern-day Chengdu, Sichuan. And following some incursions against them, the chancellor at the time wanted to send him to personally supervise defenses, but Consort Yang refused because she did not want him to die, which was really funny, because then the chancellor who wanted to send him died, and he became chancellor. What a fun coincidence, I say. I have no, I don't have an opinion on whether or not that was a coincidence or not. I just think it's really funny that that's how that played out. However, her cousin, Yang Guozhong and An Lushan ended up in conflict. So Guozhong acted provocatively many times and had arrested and executed members of staff from An's mansion in Chang'an. And in 755, An Lushan rebelled, marching his troops on the capital. At the time, Emperor Xuanzang wanted to placate the people, and he was going to pass his throne to his crown prince, Li Heng. But Guozhong was not on good terms with him and persuaded Yang and her sisters to speak against it, meaning that Xuanzang chose not to abdicate the throne. In 756, Yang Guozhong forced General Ge Shuhan to engage with An Lushan, partially because he didn't want to. I think he thought he didn't want to be seen as someone who was going to, usurp the throne. And unfortunately, his forces were defeated at the Tong Pass, with the last major imperial defenses falling to An Lushan's forces in this battle. At this time, Guozhong wanted to flee to Chengdu, and Xuanzang, along with Consort Yang and all of their immediate clan and family members, secretly left Chang'an, heading for Chengdu, followed by Yang Guozhang, Chancellor.
Oh, my camera's frozen. It doesn't matter at all right now. I just noticed that.
Oh. It's probably frozen because you moved it. I'll have to...
Yeah. Well, we'll work it out
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. So the whole group of them who were leaving reached the Mawei station. And at this point, the Imperial Guards were not super happy with Yang Guozhang. And so the Tibetan emissaries who were also following the emperor were also complaining to him because they haven't been fed, things hadn't been taken care of. And so it was said that Yang Guozhang's actions provoked the disaster. And General Chen Zhuanli wanted to report to Li Heng to accuse Yang Guozhang of creating the problems that were happening. Soldiers of the guard declared that Guozhang was planning treason in collaboration with the Tibetan emissaries. They would kill Yang Guozhang and his son Yang Xuan, as well as Yang's sisters, the ladies of Han Anjin and Wei Fangjin, who had been with them. The soldiers then surrounded Emperor Xuanzang's pavilion and refused to leave even after he ordered them to disperse. So he sent the eunuch, Gao, to ask General Chen Xuanli for advice, but Chen Xuanli told the emperor put Consort Yang to death. The emperor refused, and the conflict continued, obviously. Like, they weren't going to back down. So Gao Lishi spoke to Chen, and eventually the emperor would agree to take Yang and put her to death. So she was taken to a Buddhist shrine, and essentially they forced her into suicide because it was considered more dignified than execution. Her body was shown to Chen. The soldiers dispersed and prepared to bury the journey. Yang was buried here at Mawei without a coffin, but in purple blankets covered in fragrance. In 757, Li Heng had taken the throne as Emperor Suzong, recaptured Chang'an, welcomed Tai Sheng Huang, or the retired Emperor Xuanzang, back to the capital. And as they traveled back through Mawei on the way back to Chang'an, he wanted to find her body and rebury it with honor, but one of his officials spoke out against it, saying that the Imperial Guard might mutiny. However, regardless, he did secretly send eunuchs to rebury her in a coffin. What's reported is when they found her body, it had decomposed, but the fragrance bag was still fresh. So they brought it to Emperor Xuanzang, and he wept bitterly over it. He also, upon returning to Chang'an, had a painter create a picture of her and installed it in a secondary palace that belonged to him, and he would often just go there to admire the portrait for the rest of his life. Yang herself was pretty well known for having a larger figure, according to Chinese historical records. We're getting into her herself. And that's somewhat interesting because in the modern day, some sources have associated this description of a slightly larger body with adjectives like obese and such, even though that was not the case from what we're aware of. It's just a case of her being larger and more full of figure than normally, and when compared against other historical figures who were considered slender. Why is your face doing that?
Nothing.
She has a idiom ascribed to her that was created because of her comparison with Empress Zhao Feiyan, who's known for being slender. It's Huan Fei Yan Shou, meaning plump Huan, slender Yan, and is describing the difference between the two of them. Modern day depictions of her differ greatly, but typically she's kind of traditionally drawn with a little bit of a more rounded figure, although modern Chinese beauty standards would have all of the four Chinese beauties drawn with much slenderer figures than they might have potentially had. You have to think, 1400 years ago, it would have been popular to have a woman who had maybe a little bit more weight on her because it meant that she could afford that food and that she could kind of afford to carry that extra weight. It also meant that she was healthier and better able to carry children. So beauty standards have changed. We now revere a much more slender figure, but back then that might not have been the case. According to stories told about her, lychee was her favorite fruit. I disagree. Lychee is disgusting, and I do not like it. But apparently, she would force the imperial couriers' horses to take shifts literally day and night to bring them to the capital from the southern regions of China, literally all the way from either Guangdong or Sichuan to the capital in Chang'an. There is still a carved outline of her right hand in the Xi'an Palace, and it's said that she was allowed to use the Huaqing pool, which had been the private pool of the previous Tang emperors. She's also credited with inventing the Heiji, which is an ancient Chinese bodice. And her story has been retold literally hundreds of times by different people through the years. One of the most popular in a generation following her was the Song of Everlasting Sorrow, written by the poet Bai Juyi, which described the Emperor Xuanzong's love for her and the grief at her loss, becoming a classic. The story of Yang also served as part of the inspiration for the tale of Genji, which we've heard about before. There are no plays about her. There's several novels written about her life, and she is very commonly portrayed in film, media, and television, especially today. However, she doesn't have that many video game appearances, which is really interesting, because I check the cultural representations tab. Often I go looking. She doesn't have a lot of video game appearances, which is kind of interesting, but I think that's maybe partially because her character isn't one that's necessarily super video gameable per se. Like, I can see how it works in Fate, but I'm not surprised that it doesn't work in another context.
I will bring up, since we are technically live streaming this to the chat has rebelled against you in regards to lychee.
Y'all are wrong. I don't like lychee. It's gross. I don't like the flavor. To be fair, though, I don't think I've ever had fresh lychee. I've only ever had lychee flavored things and like lychee in drinks, and I don't like it there. The flavor to me is not appealing. It just tastes gross. Ugh. I don't like it. Check something real quick. Let's see. So, Emperor Xuanzong of Tang actually had a pretty long reign. He reigned for 44 years, which was actually the longest period where one ruler was in control during the entirety of the Tang dynasty. He survived through 2 palace coups, seizing the throne and inheriting an empire that was still in its golden age. However, under him, the emperor devolved into near collapse through political missteps and eventually the ending of the golden age through the An Lushan rebellion. I personally would credit a fair number of his political missteps to his overemphasis on Yang Guifei and her family's importance. Just because I think this is sort of one of those things where you put a bunch of people in power with an extreme amount of power, and then you didn't really have a way to monitor or watch them, and so they create alliances and political dealings, and then it doesn't go well, because most of the issues in the latter part of the reign leading up to the rebellion of An Lushan have directly to do with Yang Guifei.
Good husband, bad emperor.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Emperor Xuanzong is that his father was Emperor Ruizhong. Ruizhong was the son of, well, not the son of Empress Dowager Wu, but I think the son of one of the fellow consorts. And she basically had him yield the throne to her as Empress Regnant. She reigned for a pretty extensive amount of time. We've talked about her before. And then Ruizhong would have a son who became Xuanzong. So he was born into kind of the reign of Wu Zetian. And then even after that, Empress Wei was in political power during Emperor Zhongzong. So that's great. I think it's a little funny that like this man was born under Wu Zetian, right? Then had to deal with the Dowager Empress, what was it, Wei, right? And then when Ruizhong was actually reigning, Princess Taiping, who was his favorite, who held political power, and then he, as an emperor, did kind of the same thing by giving the primary political power to Yang Guifei. Like, my man, did you not learn from your father and grandfather who were just absolutely manipulated and dominated by their wives?
That's just the values of the family. The family was very matriarchal, apparently.
Tang Dynasty, great for women.
I mean, is that disputable?
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, ladies. If you're a woman of the Tang Dynasty, I salute you. Y'all did great there for like 50 years. Like 50 to 100 years. Y'all were like absolutely powering through. It's actually pretty impressive, I will say. That's one of those things where I just think is really amusing. So, An Lushan would attempt to take the regnal name, by the way, of Emperor Xiongwu. But, as we know, eventually the rebellion would have been quashed by a little bit down the line. So, unfortunately, he actually died An Lushan died after assuming the imperial titles, meaning that he did not, in fact, get to start, his own line of succession, per se. Which is, probably deserved. Don't do that shit. So, I went through and read the Song of Everlasting Sorrow. It's actually really sweet. It's very flowery, as most traditional Eastern Asian poetry is. But it really does speak to the grief and the sorrow that the emperor apparently felt. And it's from kind of an outsider's perspective, so it's obviously the writings of Bai Juyi describing this grief and sorrow based on this great love.
I mean, I didn't even listen to the song. I just read the actual story of what happened here, and I was like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah, because here's that. Our spirits belong together like these precious fragments. Sometimes, in earth or heaven, we shall meet again. And she sent these words by the Taoist to remind him of their midnight vow, secret between them. On that 7th night of the Herd Boy and the Weaver, in the silent palace, we declared our dream was to fly together in the sky, 2 birds on the same wing, to grow together on the earth, 2 branches of one tree. Earth fades, heaven fades at the end of days, but everlasting sorrow endures always. I mean, that's pretty fucking profound. Like, goddamn, I could not. But moving on from that, Yang Guifei's had a pretty interesting reception over the centuries. So she is kind of our classic femme fatale. There have been scholars who have associated her with characters like Helen of Troy and Cleopatra, where you start with this innocent young character who becomes slightly corrupt and powerful eventually, becoming a diva who would sow the seeds of the downfall of the Tang Dynasty with a figure attributed to doomed love and tragic death, right? So she, depending on the people writing her story, she's shown as a multitude of different things over the years, but not any more so than a character like Helen of Troy or Cleopatra, There's multiple different portrayals over the years. Some would call her the downfall of Tang. Some would call her story a great love story, and some would call her a manipulative cunt. That is all up to each person's individual kind of interpretation of her story. One of the most important poets of the Tang Dynasty, Li Bai, actually published a lot of poetry about Xuanzang and her. He published a ton of stuff because he wrote over 300 Tang poems. It was an anthology that collected all of his poems that we had. And during his early years, he was writing during that golden age before the rebellion of An Lushan, meaning that he was writing his poetry during the time when Yang Guifei and Xuanzang were together, which means that he could actually see what was happening. Like, Bai Juyi wrote a generation later, but Li Bai wrote during the same time, which makes it even more interesting. And then, because this is our Lovecraft month servant, right? Cthulhu.
I have a tab pulled up for
You do have a tab for me for Cthulhu. Yay! So, we're back to Cthulhu mythos.
Fire testicle. You can't unsee it now.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much. So he's first mentioned in a short story by August Derleth, The House on Curwen Street, which I haven't read, but he did appear in 1944, a year later, in the story Dweller in the Darkness, which I have read. Cthugha is representative of a giant ball of fire, typically, and he's considered to be possibly the progenitor of a race of fire vampires, and also Afumza, who is one of his other progeny. Cthugha is considered one of the great old ones and the elder gods. However, he's an elemental spirit of fire rather than something of mystery and darkness. In The Dweller in the Darkness, which I've read, the point of the story is that the protagonist attempts to summon him to drive an avatar of Nyarlathotep out of a forest in northern Wisconsin. And we remember Gnarly. We love him. So he's, as you can see from The Dweller in the Darkness, Cthulhu Mythos, these characters were not all in concert with one another, but essentially Cthugha is a great fire spirit that can be summoned, and has been opposed to other forces of the Cthulhu Mythos before. Now I really want you to tell me how that combines with one of China's 4 great beauties.
Well, why don't we get into it? Like, pull up the design here.
Aww. Yeah. Oh, she's so cute. She reminds me of Wu. Is that intentional?
It's probably the same artist.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because she has a similar face.
We could check, but I'd imagine it's the same artist.
Well, that's certainly a... Oh my goodness. Look at it. What's up with... you're going to tell me what's up with her eyes, I'm sure.
That actually, I can't tell from this angle. That might be Cthugha in her eye.
Oh. Interesting. I love that. Would you load? Yeah, that feels like Wu's artist. Not to be that person, but yeah, that feels like Wu's artist. I like that they've gone with blue fire, I think, because they could have gone with like traditional red fire.
But they went with the really striking blue fire here.
Yeah. All right.
So Yang Guofei is one of my favorite servants to use in FGO, so I've been really looking forward to this one. Yang here is a lot like like a lot of traditional foreigners, is based around the scenario of a mystery of her death. In this case, I presume the mystery surrounds her body, the decomposing of her body.
But the stuff's still smelling fresh.
Yeah. Now, we know in reality it was decomposition that got her, but her body was never returned to the Emperor, so she is a case of the body going missing. It's usually,
well,
not missing, but it was the bags that got returned to her, not the body.
But obviously, to find the bag, they had to find the body, but the body was decomposed.
Yeah. And so that's where a lot of the foreigner lore slots in. Yang as a person is a bit of a multifaceted character, to say the least. You'll have to forgive me because I'm going mostly off memory of the Imaginary Scramble event and her interlude, because the Type Moon Wiki didn't contain a lot of information on her, so I'm going off my own memory here, more or less. In her debut story appearance, she is shown to be caring and manipulative at the same time. She is near relentless in her manipulations to see her emperor again, which is what she calls her emperor, is a delusional perception. The reality is that what she's doing is not bringing forth the emperor, but rather the outer god Cthugha to try to descend into the real world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little hard to say with her which side is real, as the foreigners get a bit spooky as they as the whole outer god thing starts to come out more. But appearances where she doesn't tap so much into the foreigner bits has her behave much kinder, but also much more airheaded, often making not even simple but rather ridiculous needless mistakes. Like, hearing Chaldea was interested in a hot spring, so she heard that Chaldea was interested in a hot spring, so she drilled a hole in the middle of base somewhere below Consort Wu's room. She was put in charge of ordering food for the kitchen and accidentally ordered or added extra zeros to her lychee order, causing the fridge to not be shuttable and forcing Emiya to get very creative in his recipes for a while. If you're curious, lychee curry, fried lychee hamburgers, lychee stir fry, and finally lychee pizza.
Oh, no. Lychee on pizza to me sounds even worse than pineapple on pizza, and you already know that I find that to be an actual war crime worthy of Geneva Convention punishments. Like that, I would break the Geneva Convention to punish someone who put lychee on a pizza.
So after enough fuck-ups, Wu decides to try disciplining Yang Guofei, where she proceeds to flee and eventually finds herself hiding in a closet with Jing Kei, where the two get to proceed to get absolutely hammered, like piss drunk, blackout bad. And it's here where we discover that when she's drunk, she's visited by an imaginary Li Bai, the Chinese poet, who gives her sage advice while she's drunk.
Respectfully, what the fuck?
Needless to say, what we have here is not just a typical manipulative foreigner. It's also a servant who has absolutely zero common sense.
Also, my question has been answered. It's the same artist as Abby and Hokusai, which is why it looked familiar.
Okay.
Because it looks like Hokusai. Yeah.
So,
Respectfully, I just opened relationships. Have you seen this?
yeah, let's get going.
Alright, the first is with Wu Zetian. Ha! I was mercilessly tortured after I accidentally called her Nightless Nai Nai. She said, "Did I hear wrong? Shouldn't it be Nightless Jieji?" So scary. Saws are scary. Fuya Jiejie is my great emperor's esteemed grandmother. Even though we are not blood related, I believe we are a proper family. She works very hard and even managed to become the emperor. When she's angry, she's really scary and makes you fear for your life. But that can be quite addictive too. No. Yu will also work hard from now on, so she will approve of me. It feels like a older sister relationship. Is that JJ is older sister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think it is. All right. Qin Shi Huang.
We don't have Warren here yet to answer that.
That's true. Yeah, it's the great Qin Shi Huang. They are truly the emperors of all emperor. I think you mean emperor of all emperors. To think that the great first emperor who built a hot spring retreat after frolicking with a goddess. Come again? The Great Wall? What's that? I wonder if we could have a hot spring here too. The emperor among emperors. Though I say that, I feel ashamed of myself since I do not know everything about that reign of his. The legend that Huaqing Pool, a famous complex of hot springs that I loved, was created by the great Qin Shi Huang to flirt with the celestial maiden, is quite famous. Unexpectedly, we had a connection through hot springs. It was a good thing I mentioned the Huaqing Pool. Xuanzang Sanzang. The great Xuanzang Sanzang. Yes, I know her. She's the great monk who traveled all the way to India to bring back a ton of sutras to fill up the southern tower in Chang'an, right? The previous Imperial Highness thought highly of her, and she is the venerable person who elevated the capital of Chang'an's prestige, as well as becoming the cornerstone for bringing peace to the Tang dynasty. But then, I ended up ruining the nation. Yeah, you really did. Li Bai-san was a complete drunkard, but he was also an amazing poet and a somewhat elusive personage. It's about time I ask for his forgiveness for materializing him as imaginary Li Bai-san when I'm dead drunk.
You might want to click into that if you want to see Li Bai. I believe there's actually something of a design.
Oh, it's not a... This is a Wikipedia.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah,
then.
no. Just kidding. Please at least make it clear whether you resent me for the case where you got banished from the Imperial Court or you're just having fun teasing me. Abe no Nakamaru. The envoy sent to Tang. Abe no Nakamaru-kun is Li Bai-san's drinking buddy. Everything I know about Japan was taught to me by Abe-kun. I see. Even though he worked so hard, he couldn't return to his birthplace. I pray that at least his soul managed to return to Japan. The Kukai Daishi, who visited Tang, is a very famous personage in Japan known as Kobo Daishi, right? He is the #1 servant this Yu would want to come to Chaldea. After all, he is an expert when it comes to opening hot springs. Daishi-sama is an existence that has attained immortality, so he might not be a heroic spirit? No way! Tamama no Mai. Ever since we've met, you've been giving me strange glances. Yes, I completely understand. I understand that I'm never to mention the word daiji. And as we both carry the same type of sins... Huh? Now you're shaking your head. Are you trembling with excitement? What could that mean? You're not trying to twist the truth so you can convince people that Yang Guifei was actually the Daiji, are you?
More Tomoko.
Could it be that I'm suspected of being Daiji-san's reincarnation, or that I'm someone related to her? It's true that we share the intense common feature of being country ruiners. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Bibi Pele. Master, master. Oh, no, no, that person is bad news. I'm talking about that Lulu How... Thank you. I'm talking about that Luluhawa Bibi who keeps saying aloha. Whether she's the real deal or she's borrowing someone else's form is beside the point. Just don't ask any questions. If Master's not careful, your son will no longer be able to end this world. But rest assured, worst case, I will personally burn her up. I'll go ahead and burn up all of Chaldea on Trash Day. Leave it to me.
So I'll comment on that one. Remember, Bibi Pele has Gnarly in her.
Yes, I do remember that. And
Gnarly
yep,
thing.
the Dweller in the Deep. Yeah. Bibi-san is a curious being. My instincts tell me we need to burn her to a crisp with high-calorie, genuinely strong flames. Such a sense of purpose is driving me. But, I wonder what's this gnarly sensation. It's different from when I want to pester Fuya Jiji. Could it be a heartfelt feeling of sentiment for a friend? There's some cases where I laugh a little bit when we're talking about servants because I feel like if you were going based on Fate lore, certain servants who I would not associate together would be together, right? Like in paired videos. But we don't do that because we go on historical associations over anything.
Sometimes I do Fate stuff if it's like really big.
But mostly when it's a Fate-ism sort of thing, you know? It's not typically the characters that like historically make sense to go, like that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Okay. There's something bothering me, Master. This artist, Katsushika Hokusai, who keeps following me around. She always keeps a certain distance while she grinds ink. In the morning, at night, when I'm in the cafeteria, at the bath, and even when I'm in the She wants to build a relationship with me because we're both foreigners? I honestly doubt that. She's probably like Li Bai, thinking she can do anything at all as long as it's in the name of her art. Miss Abby. Yes, she's taught me a lot about Chaldea. You're asking if she's acting like a bossy sister-in-law? Not at all. She's very endearing to me. Her golden hair and blue eyes remind me of that Persian maidservant who served me when I was in the inner palace. The girl was also brazen like Abby, and she would never mince her words. She often ridiculed and kicked me around, calling me chubby. I'm one of the 3 great beauties of the world. That's quite the honor, but I feel bad for the other 2 being associated with a country bumpkin like me. Oh, but maybe I should consider myself lucky. I'm going to use this golden opportunity to exchange information on beauty with the great Queen Cleopatra. Yes, that's right. Pearls are a drink. And for those of you who saw our stream 2 nights ago, I have Cleopatra in FGO finally! Thank you, Nick Nack. The credit goes to you.
My luck is strong.
Mine was not. Ah, it was great. That was such a wonderful ensemble. I joined in a trio that consisted of a piano, violin, and my pipa. I can now rest in peace. Please go ahead and kill me while I'm still floating in this wonderful bliss. What? I can play again tomorrow? That's wonderful. Then would you care to join me, Master? How about you be the vocalist? That was to Mozart and Salieri.
Yep.
Who just came out.
Yeah.
Hey!
What timing.
I know, right? You have abilities for me now.
So Yang primarily fights by playing instruments that call forth the fires of Cthulhu. Mm-hmm. In combat, her body also channels this power, making it dangerous to the touch. And she uses these fires to also summon little flame spirits that she calls the fire vampires, which can attack her enemies. What we have here is a blue fire bending via musical instrument.
That's pretty cool. Sorry. I don't know why I took another bite. Fuck.
Chew and swallow, Seki. Chew and swallow.
Okay. Alright. I remember existence outside the domain, because we've seen that in Hokusai and Abby. Divinity, that makes sense. Affection for 3001, the Emperor's love lavished on the 3000 beauties received by Yang Guifei alone. Okay. Consort of devastating beauty. Femme fatale of calamity who ruined a nation. I love that. Son of a calamitous star. Indestructible aspect. Okay. So noble phantasm is marital vows of rainbow skirts and feather robes?
Yes, so that's her noble phantasm. Yang recites a passage from a Chinese poem by the name of Song of Everlasting Regret by Bao Juyi.
Bai Juyi.
Bai Juyi. Sorry, I must have been autocorrect. The song, when sung by her, cannot be heard by the ears of mortals, and instead it will burn away at their minds and bodies.
I love that. I also want you all to know that Nick Nack did not tell me that I needed to look up Bai Juyi. I figured that out on my own.
I can't remember what I did or didn't. This was all done like, I need to get this done in the next couple weeks. The same way Abby's NP creates a psychotic interpretation in the victim's minds, I believe that's what Yang is doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also mention, because chat would not forgive me if I didn't mention it, that Yang's NP in specific is one of the most elaborate in FGO Mobile, leading to a situation where at launch in JP, if your phone wasn't strong enough, it led to the NP lagging the phone out or even crashing the game.
Oh dear.
Kind of hilarious that her NP had real world effects as well.
It's a little funny. I've almost collected all of this character designer's servants. I'm only missing Jacques de Molay.
I think you also might be missing...
The other... Oh, now. I didn't even see that because it was just one name.
Oh, was Van Gogh not part of their lineup?
No. Katsushika Hokusai, Onao, Abigail Williams, Yang Guifei, and Jacques de Molay.
Oh, never mind then.
Yep. Alright. NP. I'm gonna...
Her animations are very different between forms. So.
Oh, okay. So we just sit and watch. I'm fine with that. Yo, I love watching her hit things with a musical instrument. That's great. That was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me a little bit of how with Tristan you get some like music playing during his animations because of the harp.
Now, if only our like Mozart and Salieri did a little bit more of that. You get a little bit. Not with Mozart.
Well, yeah, but you know. I will say it is a little bit funny to just watch her like fucking lute smash.
Just
you know, like it's like slamming someone in the face with a guitar, and I love it. But like it's cello sized. Imagine slamming someone
like
in the face with a
would
cello.
hurt. The more impressive thing is that she's lifting it enough to do that.
Right. It's the Cthulhu in her.
Oh, hang on. I feel a need to immediately.
Hey, Hayashi one.
Thank you for the $2.
Wait, why do we not mention Tristan? I'm so confused.
We don't mention Tristan because I don't mention Tristan.
Why? Why do you not mention Tristan? Ooh. Oh yeah, the eyes are all funky.
Can you see how that one might have crashed phones for a bit there?
Yeah, I can see. Why don't we mention Tristan?
Animation update.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love this. She's so elaborate, like her sprite. There's so many like moving parts. I like that a lot. I think it looks really nice. Hopefully the stream will survive, gens. Yeah, her attacks are a lot different in her third ascension form. I mean, I'm totally fine with it. I think it looks great. But like, there was another character recently who had really different attacks between first and third form. And I was like, I like that because if you're gonna give like a whole new, like a really different look, you know.
It's the best thing they can do, barring just making a second servant.
Exactly.
For a later form.
Yeah. And I like that a lot. I don't know, man. I might like to roll for her at some point.
I'll let you know if I see a banner for her. Actually, there should be one coming up relatively soon.
No. Not that I have courts to roll for anyone right now.
You better be logging in if you want her.
Speaking of, I should log in today. Interesting. She seems like she's having fun, because I think she just yelled out, I think I'm having fun. Or this is fun. Because I feel like I know that phrase at this point. I've watched too much anime. Interesting. Oh, she's so sparkly. I love that. Oh, they're like little. Oh, I didn't even realize till just now when it zoomed in on her, but she's surrounded by like little koi fishes made of blue fire. Oh shit! Whoever filmed this, their phone lagged out for a second.
Yeah.
I saw the pause. Like I literally saw the phone like pause as the fucking thing was rising.
Love that.
Love that. Okay. Alright, Okay, there's a fair amount of extra stuff, so let me... Grail League. Oh my god, she's so cute. I love her. Aww. Oh, they made her a little chubby. Aww. Oh my god, that's the cutest thing ever.
So I don't think we caught this. I caught this while I was doing my research on this servant, but I don't think we caught this when we were scrolling through. There's a little trivia from the artist that when designing her, he was... I can't remember if it's a he or I think it's a he. Was
Yeah, I read the little artist trivia at the bottom.
Yeah.
I just didn't read it out loud. I never do, but I read it when you're still going through abilities. I usually scroll a little bit further down and read it. So I did read it, but oh my god, she's just so cute. Oh, she has a different design in China. For 2, 3, and 4, I think. 2, 3. I'm gonna be honest, I actually like the Chinese design more. It's not a huge change, but it's just like a little bit more conservative, and I kind of like it, you know? But I think maybe I just like it because it looks more like a traditional Chinese, like, dress. So, you know. I think it looks nice, though. Alright. I do want to get a closer look. Oh, because there's the pipes. Yeah, they're floating fish. I did not notice they were fishes at first because they're moving and they're a little hard to see. Oh. Let's see. Clicked into the wrong one. I love my computer. Oh. She has a lot of expressions.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a command code. The Heavenly Emperor's Consort. We got a foot pick. Foot pick video when, knick-knack?
Well, I gotta have that PowerPoint making energy.
I know. She does have a bunch of extra art, so. Aww. With Abby. With Abby. Let's see. I think I saw. Yeah. Okay. No, there were just a few extra pieces. All right. Not too many, but there's some. Yeah. All right. Purple jade flute. Oh, that's really detailed. Look at that. There's the moon rabbit and everything depicted on the flute. Interesting. Okay. An elegant flute made from purple jade. It is one of the instruments that Yang Guifei was versed in playing along with the pipa. It is said that the instrument was gifted to her by the Chinese goddess of the moon, Chang'e. The two of us trying to play this single flute together, even a playful attempt that will surely yield a melodic tune. I love that. That's very nice. All right. Huaqing Palace Confectionery Hot Springs Mantou. Well, they look very decorative. Special chocolate-flavored hot spring manju from Yang Guifei. Dried lychee are the secret ingredient. The big one was made by Yang Guifei herself. The rest were made by her fire sprite attendants. The big manju seems more on the simplistic side. A nice dip in the bath while enjoying sweets is the best remedy when you're tired. Let's eat the manju while we soak ourselves in the hot springs together. Come again? That's not what a hot spring manju means? Well, I'm going to put a positive spin on this. The possibilities for these sweets are endless. Lychee. Honey Lake. Okay. The lake sparkles as it gets enveloped in gentle sunlight. Its pale surface creates a cooling sound as the wind ripples through. It's as if the world is being painted to a brilliant color with just the noble consort nearby.
You actually got this CE last stream.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, that's the one I was
Didn't
like, this is
even
a
notice.
really good CE.
Oh, I did not notice. Ooh, Heroic Spirit. Actually, I like that. Look at all the fire sprites. They're so... Aw, there's like one sleeping down. There's a bunch sleeping down at her feet. I'm like hiding behind her. She's on the Great Wall of China, by the way. I don't even need to scroll down to check where she is. She's on the Great Wall of China. 6th anniversary.
There's the full artwork.
Oh yeah, but it's got other servants in it. So, let's see. It's Maeve and Miss Crane.
Okay,
Or the other two.
You don't know one of them, so.
I'll just ignore that one. Because I
Okay.
do know Maeve, so. Yeah, because I remember this. Just ignoring that third person. See, Great Wall of China. Did I need to check that? No, I did not. I do like that the Heroic Spirit Tours often have multiple servants in like a single location, kind of so you can see them individually but also all together. All right. Jade Hairpin. Oh, I've seen this. This is Cleopatra. But where's...
Probably one of the people
Oh,
in the
I see it.
background
Maybe? Well, because that's the red hair, white hair, white...
there. I can't get a good enough frontal view.
I just noticed something new. There's a little fat rubber ducky wearing the laurel that Caesar wears. Oh, I see her! I see the back of her head and her hair. I'm not going to read that because we've
That is
already...
not a her seat.
No. All right. Sweat Blood. Oh, there's Woo.
Mm-hmm.
And someone I don't know. Okay. You work hard every day. How about a luxurious refreshment time once in a while? Put your heavy luggage in the basket for now. Put aside what needs to be done. Then give a reward to your tired legs. Unwind and warm them well. May your steps tomorrow be lighter. It's interesting that they put, she's got her feet in like a bath with like rose petals. Because it reminds me of like the perfumed sachet. Okay. Heroic Spirit event attire. Oh my goodness, look. There's Katsushika and Abby with little like notes over here. That's so cute. She looks adorable. Awesome. I mean, I know it's just an anniversary, but... oh, the setting is Rio Carnival, so I know which one this was. This was the one where they were set during different festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got all the by the same artist. Yeah. Nice. Nice. That was beautiful.
So yeah, that was Yang Guofei.
I like Yang. She's adorable. Super cute. Did you just knock something over?
Probably.
You did. Yeah. I'm gonna switch us back to the talk zone.
All right.
I'm gonna see if